Alright everybody, so first thing I want to say is if you are watching this bench build for the build itself, and maybe you plan on doing the same thing, or you're in the middle of it and you're looking for some tips on how you can get past your challenges, but or whatever. If you are following it for that, then let me know down in the comments so that I know somebody's following for one. But if you have any questions or whatever, I can answer what I can. If I can't answer them, well, I don't know everything. So where I sit right now is I've got both sides of the top. This is the front, and this is the back. I've got all of them squared and planed down on all 5 sides except for the top. All 5 sides, leaving the top for the end. They're both roughed out. They only have about, both of them have less than 1/8 of an inch to take off the top, to flatten it out once it's all assembled and everything. And that's where I sit. So that took a long time, a lot longer than I thought it would. Especially working weekends and working on it on the weekends and the weeknights, and I work late, so I don't really get to work on it a whole lot. But when I do, I'm usually sweating my ass off, so it's a good thing. During the week, Tuesday, I got a lot planed on it. This was the last one I had left, so I figured I'd work on it and get it flat throughout the week. I tuned this one up just a little bit, but that was the main one I was working on, and I got it exactly where I wanted it. But that was Tuesday I worked on it, and Wednesday I didn't do a whole lot. I came home and just crashed. And then Thursday, it took me about a good 2 to 2.5 hours to finish planing the rest of that off. That was a lot of material to remove, and when you're doing it with hand planes, it takes a while. So I got it all planed down, and I got it out here today. Finished off basically getting the ends, or the edges of both. So all 4 edges are all parallel to one another. That took a little bit of time, and I went ahead and cut this size. You can't, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, but this one's already been cut to length, and as you can see, they marry up nicely. There's a real small gap, but that's because it looks like a gap anyway, because I have it beveled. There's a small gap right here. But I'm not planing the whole thing down just for a tiny gap over here. It looks like there's a small gap there, but that's because I took all the irises off the corners with the plane. So anyway, so that one's already cut to length. It's 7 foot long, and now I'm moving on to cutting this one. So all sides are squared up, and flat, and no twist, and all that good stuff, except for the tops, which is exactly how you see it. The bottoms are on the bottom and the tops are on the top. So now I just got to mark this out. Mark it out and cut it off. So the way I cut off is the way I've learned is through watching a bunch of YouTube videos, mainly Paul Sellers and Wrangler Star, um, and a couple others. They're on there, but this line I drew just so I knew as I was marrying the two up, I knew exactly where the boards were going to end. So it's kind of a good rough guideline to cut to. Um, but the way that I've learned is to use a knife wall instead of using a pencil. Use a knife wall, and I go all four sides with a knife wall, and then chisel out a little edge for my saw to ride in. It's done nothing but give me great results. This one was off by this side was off by I don't know about a 30-second, and that one came out almost perfect. I just had to clean it up with the hand plane real quick, um, but it worked out great. I've used it in the past, so it wasn't it was something that I was familiar with. So um, my reference faces are this side and the bottom. Those are what I spent the most time on, and I know are true and flat and square to one another. So that's what I go off of. I'm going off those two faces alone, except for obviously the last one, which I sort of can't really do, but you'll see. So you just square it off, and I'm trying to, the way I did it, I'm cutting it to get it, you can't see it, but on the back side there's a few little sap sips in here, and like this here, which aren't a big problem, but if you can get rid of them, why not? There's also, by cutting it here, I get rid of 3, almost 4 knots, and keeping with it. I don't have to cut a whole lot off here, but I have a huge knot over here, so I want to get that off. And yeah, so that's why I chose to go where I went for my marking for my final length. So I want to cut it just a little bit longer than this line. You just hold it flat up against here, flat down on. Always make sure that you're not only square, but you have pressure on the entire length, and obviously don't put your fingers where you slice the tip of your finger when you're doing this. So good and square. I know I'm square there, so I take my fingers off and make a real light pass. Just to make sure nothing's going to move while I do it. And go heavier. And heavier. And heavier. Now that's off the first. Remember this is my reference face that I reference my square off of. So at this point I wait and get my knife into the little knife nick from the first cut. Move the square up. Same thing. Light pass, a little heavier, and real heavy. All right. Same thing, knife nick. Falls right in. A light pass. Heavier and I can go without the square on the last pass if I want to. And then it's just a matter of marrying this last one up. And contrary to popular belief, they do not always marry up unless you have everything square. I mean, perfect. So here you're just making this knife wall just a little bit deeper. Give your saw something to write in. Now, if you're like me and you watch Paul Sellers, he just flicks it out and goes on. I can't do that because a lot of times I cut the chisel a little bit too deep and it doesn't quite cut all the little fibers out of there. So I go back in a little bit. Somebody at work that was watching these videos, probably right watching this one, but asked me why do I always wear overalls? Well, it's because that's what I like. They're comfortable. If you ain't never worn them, give them a shot. Might just surprise you. And overalls are for grandpas. And newsflash, if you didn't know, I'm a grandpa. Oh, and this is a joiner's mallet. I made this mallet. Well, you can't really see it all that well. My lighting sucks. It's because it's called the sun, and I can't really control that. Not yet, anyway. But I made this from scratch. The handle is mahogany, and the head is it's just some maple firewood I had. Really, it's just I was like, well, I just need a small chunk, and so I took it out of some firewood I had, and Yeah, it's got the pith in it, but I thought maybe it might, it might give me some problems checking or something. But I've been using this for, I don't know, 6 months now, close to it, and it hasn't given me a single problem yet. And the nice thing about this is it's nice and lightweight, but it still delivers the what you need, the goods. And if I want, I can always, well, it's seated on there now, but it's designed to come apart. It's got a taper. I want to say it's like a quarter bug or something crawling around on my back. Quarter inch taper, something like that, and you can take it apart and sit flat in your toolbox or whatever, and you bust it out, put it together, and there you go. Anyway, so let's finish this off. And one other thing that I have found um, valuable is I cut this, but then I cut just off of it, like just on the waist side of the actual cut. And what that does is allows me to, I cut all the way through, and then I just plane down to that knife line. I don't even have to check it for square at that point. I already know it's there. But if it does start to wander off a little bit, this knife or the knife wall that I'm cutting now keeps it on track. Yeah, bugs are getting kind of bad. But yeah, if you're watching this for, if if you're trying to pick something up or learn something, maybe I use a different technique or whatever than you do, and you might want to try it or whatever. Leave me a comment. Let me know. You know, let me know that you're watching for the build. you can tell, this doesn't, I don't know, doesn't take all that long. I guess maybe it does, and times just, I don't know, it's not, I don't feel like it takes that long, but, you know, time flies when you're having fun. And every step I get closer to finishing this bench, it's just, with every single step, you know, I finish the tops, that's like, whew, thank God. And then I finished cutting this one to length, got them all planed up, so that's all 5. So I guess all 5 are done on, all 5 sides are done on that one. Only 3 done on this one. There will be 5 by the time the sun goes down tonight. And the only step now left to do is to cut it off. And then I will literally butt these 2 ends flush and mark it, and that will be, I will mark it off of that. Everything that I cut will be marked off of this one board. That way I know everything is exactly the same length. And even though I don't really need to clamp it down, it's already heavy enough. But it's sturdy. Even with nothing, it already gives you a really good work surface to work with. And some people do this differently, whatever. I just go for it, you know, just start. Actually, I usually start, I don't know why I didn't. That's something else to be mindful of. You want to have the good side, the upside facing towards you, because no matter how sharp your saw is, and this saw is probably 90 to 100 years old, cuts like a dream. But no matter how nice your saw is, you're still going to have a little bit of tear out right here where the saw comes out. So I want to make sure that this is the bottom side, and that the top side is the clean cut side. So just be aware of that when you go to set up and start cutting and everything. Oh, it worked last time. It wasn't that tall. And these clamps are great. They're just aluminum clamps. I put some leather tabs on there. They're super easy to operate. Oh, the knees are killing me. But I just start going this way, and then I'll drop, and I'll end up in this direction with it flat. So give me a little bit more, a little bit better approach at it. gotten this far. I'll just move it. Bottom down. So that the blowout or tear out or whatever is on the bottom side that won't get seen. Should have done at the beginning. Just like a plane, you gotta keep it lubed up. Glide smoother through the cut. I'm literally like, I don't know, a 30-second off when I do this. Less than that maybe, just a hair off. I just take full strokes and let the saw do most of the work. You can press down if you want, and if you don't, whatever. Saw however you saw. This is how I saw, because if you start getting nasty and correcting, it's going to start binding on a piece of lumber this size. I'm sure I'll even have some binding. I'm not a perfect sawyer or anything. But it's, again, it's working beautifully. The knife wall I cut just works amazing. It keeps it right where you want it to be. And as long as you start out well and you get it and you stay in that kerf and you stay straight on your line, you're going to hit exactly what you're aiming for. Plus I can cut this out right here. There's a little bit of gap in my glue up. But I really only have that gap. As far as like a large gap, I have a little gap right here. Got a pretty nice size gap right here. Well, long anyways. And that's really it. That's it. Got a little tiny one there, but I feel, if I see checking, cracking, or any gaps in my glue up that, I can fill that in with epoxy, and if it really bothers me, and call it a day. But none of it, so far, none of it really bothers me. So, And something I've used when I do sawing, when I'm sawing something out, no matter if it's a large piece or a small piece, you're using a little tiny saw or you're using a big saw. Go back to your days of shoot and pull, and if you pull back, right? If you pull back like this, your stick's gonna go like this. Your cue's gonna wander on you, and you're never gonna hit it. So you got to make sure that you go straight back, right? Well, same thing here. You're gonna get feedback from your saw if you're not sawing straight. It's gonna want to kink and bend on you. The end of it'll start making funky sounds and acting really weird. But once you get into that good motion, you can go full stroke and you've got a good cut going. Man, you really can't beat it. You really can't. Nice pull straight back, just like a pull cue. And just kind of let the weight of your arm and the saw engage in the cut and go to town. I mean, I'm not like, it's not like I'm a huge guy or anything. I'm not small, but I'm not out of breath. I'm not, you know, I'm not straining myself to make this cut. I just cut. You know, let the saw do the work. If your saw's not sharp, learn how to sharpen your saw and sharpen your saw. But I mean, I'm almost halfway through this board, through this plank, this top, and I'm nowhere near out of breath. Just let the weight of your arm and the saw do the work. If you have a shiny saw, I can see it in here too. You can draw a few lines. You could draw a few lines off of your board, and if you see them, you should see the same exact mirror image on the side of your blade. That you know, if you see it start to, instead of being like this, you see it start to go like this. Well, that means that your blade, your saw is off to one side or the other. You'll see that perfect mirror image every time when you're doing it right. Hitting the end. Tell me that, why do flies, mosquitoes, and all kinds of bugs, why do they find it necessary to fly right in your freaking eyeball? Every time. Your ears, your eyeballs. I don't get it. Crazy. Make sure that when this piece is ready to go, I'm not ready quite yet, but when it's ready to go, make sure you catch it. Don't let it snap that corner off. If you're not supporting it, catch it, then the weight of it's just gonna fall off, or your saw will snap it off, and you'll have a big tear out right there in that corner. So just know when it's going to happen, predict it, and catch it. Yeah, if this saw wasn't sharp, it wouldn't be doing what you see. I have learned to sharpen my own saws. I am nowhere near an expert, so I'm not going to shoot a video on how to sharpen saws. Yet, anyway. But as you can see, it works rather well. That's it. Everybody else like trying to break. Yeah, you're not breaking this thing. It ain't happening. And I'll show you briefly how I plane the ends. But I'm not going to go full bore or anything. So I just get it up there, have just your plane set. So a rather I'd say rather light setting. So you see that's the back side right there. If I didn't have that knife cut, it'd be all torn out right there. And I've got, actually this one is probably, it's a lot closer on the side that I was on, but it did kind of cut a little bit like this. Not that much. I mean, you're talking maybe a 1/16 oversize on this side, and well, not even that. Maybe, or I got about 1/16 over here, about 30/2 over here. But I've moved the boards closer, so this is a little awkward. It was right here earlier on this one, but now don't go all the way off of it. You'll break off the unsupported fibers down here. And same thing, if you go off this way, you risk snapping the tips off there. And this is the back side of the bottom of this plank, so not that big of a deal. But you do this side, get it nice and flat and square. Square it only to your face and your face edge, and you'll be fine. You plane down to those knife marks you made, and you're automatically square. You don't even have to check it. I check it to make sure I don't have a bow in like a hump in the middle. But other than that, yeah, you can pretty much eyeball that. And then you would flip it over and come from this side and get that side squared up, and that's it. All my friends and family, I love you. And sorry the video is 41 minutes long, but it is what it is. If you don't like it, change the channel. Peace.